Coming right up. So on the left side for the blue team, we are going to have Curse. This is going to be the members of the company like Liquid, Nuis, and Hubert are going to be fighting out against members of Factset's company and to see who gets into the playoffs. That means right now it's a weighted best of 3, and Curse has to win just one game to get in. Whereas Factset is actually down, and they got to win 2 to get this one out. So we're going to see if they're going to be able to get this one going, and the bands are already rolling. Xinjiao, Diana, and Singed band out on the side of Curse. Blitzcrank, Jax, and Shen band out for Factset as well. Darius picked up first pick for the side of Curse. Meanwhile, a Quaker Oats and Extendo Hug is going to respond with Rise and Lulu. So they are going to be picking up their middle lane rather than the top lane to go up against that Darius. Now, until that Jarvan was picked, that Darius could have been a jungle, but I would assume that it's most likely going to be a Jarvan jungle over Darius. They could absolutely switch positions, and that is something we have seen in the past. But I gotta feel like they're going for that top lane. Darius, let's see, Thresh and Caitlyn picked out for Curse. Suja and Zazimash responding with Renekton and Graves. Liquid picking up Teemo, actually. So it could be a Teemo mid. Actually, they could switch a lot of these lanes up, and we'll see how that goes. They might actually be doing a couple of different lane swaps, as they did do that last time, I do believe. Dragon Ball Z, last but not least, picking up, it looks like Jungle Fiddlesticks. So it is going to be Darius in the top lane versus Renekton. Let's see here. Caitlyn versus Graves with a Thresh versus Lulu. That's going to be a rather interesting lane, I gotta admit. Just looking at the bottom lane composition, I mean, Curse has a lot more poke in the bottom lane with Caitlyn and with Thresh, but Lulu has such long range on her Glitter Lance and the ability to shield a little bit. I don't want to say easier, but it's a little bit more immediate that her shield gets applied, whereas Thresh has to wait for the lantern. The only other big deal, though, is that because Caitlyn is running Cleanse and there's that Thresh Lantern, she could be allowed to get out of fights a little bit easier. I don't know, that's going to be an interesting lane to watch out for. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, it looks like, as long as there aren't any lane swaps, in the mid lane, it's going to be Teemo versus Rise. This is actually not something I've seen a whole lot of, especially not recently. Teemo kind of died out a little bit after the whole, Leandry's got nerfed and everyone else found out that they could use, Brutalizer, that was a good item. But, I mean, looking at it, it's not exactly, it's not the choice that everyone comes to mind. Usually when you think Rise, you think someone with a lot of, I guess harass works. I mean, Teemo is definitely a very high harassed champion, and especially with the way things work out with his poison, it may be tough for Rise to get in there. The only really big deal, though, is that because Rise is ranged, interesting. We'll see how that one goes. So that's a big watch out for. But either way, we're going to be getting into the game here for Curse versus Factset in about a minute and a half. And let's take a look at what else is going on. Now, guys, this is to see who gets into the playoffs. Currently, both teams are 5-3 with wins and losses. It all comes down to these few games as to who gets to go on and fight for their win of the ability to have the money donated to a charity. These teams are all company members, just people that kind of like running a softball team for your company or a baseball team for your company. These people are running League of Legends teams for their company, and the team that goes on to win gets to choose the money to donate to a charity of their choice. So this should be a really, really exciting set of games here. I'm really actually rather interested to see who wins this one out, because Curse has it kind of easy. They only need to win one game, which means if Factset wins the next or this game and they go on to win one more, or Curse wins the next game after that, Curse actually comes out on top with that one. It is a weighted best of 3 with Curse already ahead. So they really kind of have the ability, they don't really have that pressure of we got to win the next 2 games now. Whereas, I mean, looking at Factset, they're a very, very solid team. Their bot lane has always impressed me in every one of these games that we've seen from them. But they've still got the pressure of we have to win these next 2 games. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We don't really have a choice. So if they can actually hold off that kind of mindset and just play to the best of their ability and do everything that they possibly can, they might be able to come out on top of this one. But we're going to see how this one turns out in just a minute as the game is about to get started here of Curse versus Factset. So, once again, I am InsigmaTheory bringing to you the game for today of the After Hours Gaming League. Oh boy, am I excited. I've actually casted a lot of Factset games so far this season, and I gotta admit, they're definitely one of my, they're definitely one of the teams I'm looking forward to. All the time. Every time I see that Factset come out on the schedule, I'm always like, yeah, awesome. These are great. But Curse, you know, they've got such deep roots in the esports scene. All of their members actually have, you know, the connections, and they're actually watching for how these games go out. It's just, there's so much tension and there's so much of a storyline between both of these teams. It's just awesome, and I'm so excited to bring these games to you today. So just a heads up, guys, the So You Think You Can Shoutcast competition is starting to have the voting come out in the next week or so, I believe. I want to say on the 17th, but I could be wrong about that one. But that's when the voting is going to come out. So make sure to check out the site of After Hours Gaming TV. And make sure to vote when the time comes to see who you think is the best of the applicants for the So You Think You Can Shout competition. It'd be pretty awesome to see you guys vote for me. But of course, you know, it's all about you guys. It's all about what you guys want to see and all about what you guys like. So without any further ado, let's get into the game of Curse versus Factset. There we go. All right. So in the top lane, we've got Curse Hubert playing that top lane Darius. Meanwhile, Curse Nuis going to be playing the jungle Jarvan. Tonpu is going to be on that Thresh support. There we go. And Mega Milks is going to be the AD carry Caitlyn. Last but not least, on Team Curse Liquid going to be playing that mid lane Teemo. On the side of Factset, we've got the Quaker Oats playing the mid lane Rise. Extendo Hug is going to be on the support Lulu. Let's see here. Suja is going to be played in the top lane with that Renekton. Zazimash, the AD carry, going to be playing Graves today. And then once, you know, again, Dragon Ball Z is going to be on Fiddlesticks for the jungle. So it looks like actually Curse is invading onto the blue buff. Something very usual that you would see onto against a jungle Fiddlesticks. That meanwhile, though, Factset actually responding really, really well and just straight up invading on the same time. There's a couple of wards going down inside the jungle, and I believe that that ward here was spotted, so they should be expecting this one out. And it looks like Curse is going for the top side jungle. Pings are going out, so they might be expecting Fiddlesticks to start with the red buff, and Factset actually might go for this one. All right, so there's wards all over the place inside of Factset's jungle, and they're going straight for the blue buff. Now, they do have the brush advantage. Hubert tried to pull onto this one, but it wasn't quite in range. Liquid goes down on first blood to Zazimash, and it looks like Factset's going to come out on top. Now, Exhaust goes down on top of Mega Milks, and there she's going to have to just flash out and stay alive. So Factset actually going to pick up the blue buff here and take first blood for today's game. Already a really, really good start for the team, but you know, it should be pretty exciting. One thing I do want to point out, though, is that Fiddlesticks actually is starting Amplifying Tome rather than starting with the Hunter's Machete. Kind of an interesting pick. I mean, this is going to allow him to get into his build a little bit earlier. And it does actually affect his drain a little bit more than the Hunter's Machete does. It's only the big deal is that if that early invade hadn't worked out, I gotta say that he might have a little bit tougher of a time. It looks like Nuist is actually invading here onto the blue buff. Quaker Oats going down as well. Liquid might be able to pick this one up. Quaker Oats gets hit by the trap, and he's going to have to barely flash out, but the Teemo Poison ticks away, and they're going to turn around and pick up a next kill onto it, and bot lane has just showed up now to steal the blue buff for those Fiddlesticks. Now, he does already have his own blue buff, so this isn't absolutely horrible for him, but it looks like Factset was the one to switch around these lanes, send up Renekton bottom lane, and the AD carry and support up at the top. I gotta say, I do feel like that's a good idea, but Suja here taking a lot of damage from these two. Tombu actually lands the hook onto Renekton. Caitlyn gets the crit onto him, but he's gonna have to flash out and barely make it out alive. He's got to be really, really careful, though. This is definitely not where you want to be as a Renekton. It actually might have been the idea that they could have thought that Curse was doing the switch, but it looks like Nui's here once again invading. Smite goes down early on to red buff from Dragon Ball Z. He ends up taking a lot of damage. Liquid is right behind it with a little bit more. The poison works away at him. Is he going to be able to get alive? It's 50 health onto the Fiddlestick, so he's able to stay alive, but just barely. He did lose that red buff, though, and Nuis is actually able to pick this one up pretty well. Holy cow, this game is going back and forth so quickly. 5,000 gold to 5,000, 1 kill to 1, 4 minutes into the game. Wow, I don't actually know how these things are going, but it looks like we could just actually take a look here, not only at the CS difference between, you know, the two solo lanes, the bruiser lanes. You know, you've got 8 CS to 6 on you know, Darius versus Renekton, but what we have to point out here is that Renekton started out with a red elixir. He started out hoping that he could get a really early advantage. The problem is that now he's down to 4 potions. Meanwhile, Darius up at the top lane has 7 health potions and 2 mana potions. He's going to be able to stick into this lane and just kind of farm under his own turret forever. There's really not a whole lot that Factset can do just about that yet, but it looks like bottom lane turret is getting hit pretty hard here. It's down to under 1,000 health. Top lane has not quite had the harass just yet, and it looks like Curse here is going to pick up the first turret for the game, but the minion wave does clear out, and it's down really low. It's at about 300 health now, so all they got to do is wait for one more minion wave to work this one out. We're going to see how this one turns around. Meanwhile, Curse Liquid once again trying to invade onto something here. Quaker Oats getting hit by the Jarvan very quickly, but holy cow, so much action going back and forth. All right, so they're just kind of trading. Everyone's looking for sort of major opportunity here. Nothing quite presenting itself just yet. So we got to talk about how this game is sort of flowing and how these teams are kind of reacting here. There's that first turret on the bottom lane taken down, and it looks like Curse is just going to recall, and they might trade this one out. But holy cow! All right, so like let's work this out. I mean, Curse only has to win this game. They're kind of putting everything into it, and it's pretty obvious. But it's still really even. The only really big difference that we have to notice here is that Zazimash, the AD carry for Factset, is at 45 CS, and Caitlyn is only at 30. That's a huge lead. That's 16 CS, and Graves has a kill. I mean, he's what, like 500 gold ahead? That's pretty big, especially now that he has 1,800 gold in his back pocket. Liquid is coming in from behind for a gank up onto the top lane, though. Extendo Hugs transforming Liquid into a little squirrel there for a little bit of time, but Zazimash is able to actually dash and flash out of this one. Extendo Hugs taking a lot of damage from the ult from Darius, and there's the kill from the bleed onto that top side, but it looks like all 5 members of Curse are up in this top lane. Meanwhile, Suja's down at the bottom, pushing this lane up pretty hard. And I just don't quite know what's going on here, but I mean, and this is exactly what I was talking here. Graves just straight up picked a BF sword. He went straight for damage, and they're actually going back to the top lane. They're not going to trade out as well and go bottom. They're just going to hold off this top lane turret, and Mega Milks really only has his pickaxe for the damage, so Graves has quite a bit of an advantage in that lane. It's just a matter of whether he's going to be able to capitalize on it or not. Fiddlesticks coming back into the game with a couple of cloth armor, so he's going straight up for the Seeker's Arm Guard into the Zhonya's Hourglass, it looks like, for his first major item. But we'll see how that one turns around in just a minute. Zazzy Mash up at the top lane, just kind of holding this one off. Now, Suja did not get this bottom lane turret down. In fact, it's not even at half health right now. I don't know. That's kind of not really a good position for Factset. I mean, it's 10,200 gold and 9,400. 8 minutes into the game. Hubert came back to lane, though, with a Brutalizer, and Suja really only has this Giant's Belt. Now, that's a lot of health, but he doesn't quite have the damage that he needs to sort of sustain this one back and forth. Liquid in the mid lane taking a lot of damage, and Zazzy Match up at top getting pulled by the Thresh. He's able to dash away really quickly, but he's still pretty low from that one. That's not where you want to be. Even with the damage advantage of having that BF sword up in the top lane, you do not want to be caught out 1v2 by your enemy opponent. And this is the kind of poke that I was talking about. Graves can't really get close without taking a lot of damage from Caitlyn, especially if she's good and she can land her headshots, which is pretty obvious that we're seeing from these teams. Meanwhile, the blue buff is being picked up by Quaker Oats on that side, and it looks like Liquid actually hasn't been back to buy just yet. He's got about 2,000 gold in the bank. I'm wondering what he's gonna go for when it comes into it. He might actually wait until he has a little bit more, and he could just come back with an entire item. It's just, if he has to keep the pressure onto Rise. He can't really leave, because then Rise kind of has that sort of free roaming, free farming capability where you do not want him to get. I mean, yeah, it's Teemo. He's got a lot of damage to work out, and with the on-hit effects and the poisons, he's a really big threat, but you still have to worry about the Rise. Looks like Curse here is going to steal the red buff once again. On this top side jungle, Fiddlesticks is just not having the greatest time. Meanwhile, down at the bottom, full-on fight is engaging. Hubert actually goes down to Suja. He's able to pick up a kill in the bottom lane, and the turret is getting pushed up pretty hard. Everyone from Curse is topside. Suja's actually responding very nicely, going straight for pressure onto the turret. Extendo Hugs gets hit by the mushroom on from Liquid, and he's going to have to ult himself. Meanwhile, the ace in the hole comes in. Liquid's able to pick up the kill with the poison. And it looks like Factset is kind of on the back foot a little bit. It's not a huge advantage that Curse has. I mean, it's only 600 gold, but it's just looking at the control from these teams, looking at the way these fights are kind of flowing. Factset's kind of on the back foot. I mean, it's just the really biggest difference here is that Graves is a little bit ahead of Caitlyn, and that Renekton is a little bit ahead of Darius. The problem is the sort of the rest of the team isn't quite there to hold them up and to carry them into place. They can't really be caught out, and Renekton's going to start falling off here. In a few minutes, he's going to start falling off from the damage, and Darius is going to be able to hold this one up. And then on top of that, Renekton's actually rushing a Sunfire Cape, so he's not going for any early game damage. He's going straight for the tank, and he's going to be useful for the crowd control a little bit later on. So I think it's got to be good planning here from Factset, working this one out. I mean, a lot of times what you'll see is a Renekton start to fall behind, and they'll try to build damage. They'll try to build a Brutalizer and any amount of lifesteal and attack damage that they can possibly get, just to try to get themselves back into the game, because Renekton is a really, really heavy AD caster. He can really do a lot of damage. The problem is that once you're behind on a champion like Renekton, there kind of is no coming back. So what he's doing is he's building health and he's building tankiness to get himself into the game, and when he gets into fights, he's going to be able to jump onto your carry, and you can't really ignore him. You have to do something about him, because he's just going to be there, and he's going to have so much health and armor that the carry can't really get them off. But it looks like 14,400 gold on Curse to 14,300 for Factset. 3 kills to 2, 12 minutes into the game. And it's actually gotten pretty even here, and it's mostly due to the creep score. Mid lane Rise, Quaker Oats is at 82, and Liquid is only at about 62. Now, he did come back to lane, though, with a needlessly large rod and his level 2 boots, so he's got a little bit of an advantage there, but Noise is taking a bit of damage from Quaker Oats. The root goes down on top of him. Tompu turns around as well, and Noise is going to land the Cataclysm on top of it, but he's really, really low. Extendo Hugs might be able to pick this one off. The Ignite finishes Jarvan off, and last but not least, ZaZyMash is going to be able to ult over the wall. Tonpu is going to flash over to the Baron Pit. Extendo Hugs flashes over for the kill as well. Lands the Glitter Lance. Tonpu is extremely low, and it looks like the shield isn't going to be enough, and ZaZyMash is going to pick up the kill onto Thresh. Really, really good fight there by Factset. But these fights are just going back and forth so quickly. All right. Meanwhile, down at the bottom, Suja and Hubert once again trading this one out. They both have champions that are really, really good at committing to fights and forcing the enemy fighter to commit. You want someone to engage on top of you as Renekton, and the same thing goes for Darius. You want someone to get onto you and start stacking your bleed as quickly as possible, and you're not going to be able to let them get away with the pull. The really big difference, though, is that Renekton has his dash, he has his stun, and he's got a lot of lifesteal. So these fights are not really going anywhere for either player. They're just kind of whittling each other away and hoping that something big happens, hoping that they can kind of catch out on a mistake, and they're just trading back and forth. So Darius is actually recalling now. This is the first time in a while that he's been able to get back. He's got 1,000 gold in the bank. It looks like he's probably going to go for his level 2 boots here pretty quickly. Yeah, there's the Ninja Tabby coming out from Darius. Meanwhile, Suja just now finishing his Sunfire Cape. Starting to get really, really tanky. And this is not the Renekton you want to deal with in a team fight, at least. 4 kills to 5, 14 minutes into the game, and it looks like Factset is giving off the blue buff to Rise. Ace in the hole comes out, trying to do a little bit of poke, and it looks like Quaker Oats is able to pick up the blue buff. Liquid actually gets completely engaged on the Thresh Lantern. Isn't quite there in time for Liquid to click on to get out of. Quaker Oats turning around, taking a ton of damage from Jarvan, and he's not able to flash out of the Cataclysm. That's just enough to pick it up. But Suja here, stuck in the backside, might be able to turn around with another kill. Mega Milks goes down. Tompu's getting really low. Dragon Ball Z turns around as well. All they got to do is land a fear or any sort of stun or any damage onto it. Suja's going to flash forward and pick up the kill onto Thresh, and they're just going to turn around and take that advantage and go for a dragon. Awesome play there by Factset. That was absolutely huge. Turning this game around really quickly. I mean, they've had a lead kind of all game. It's not been a very large lead. In fact, at some points they were maybe a couple hundred gold behind. But this is actually starting to see where these teams are going to start to sort of separate, and that gold lead is going to start to get pretty big, especially now that they're starting to get, you know, little bits here and there of advantage. But I don't know. I mean, it's not snowballing fast enough that Curse can't do something about it. So it looks like Extendo Hug is going to spot Hubert here up in this top lane, taking the double golems, and he's just going to have to back right off. Down at the bottom, Mega Milks is just farming this one up. And Dragon Ball Z looks like he might get his own red buff this time, or at least ZaZyMash might get his own red buff. And there it is, trading it off to the AD carry. But that's the first red buff that Factset has actually gotten, at least from the red, actually the Lizard itself, rather than picking up a kill with someone that has the red buff. But yeah, so Extendo Hugs here, warding this top side river out. And Quaker Oats pushing up mid pretty hard. Liquid is actually back at the mid lane, but he's completely out of mana right about now. He's got enough for just a couple of more shrooms at that point. Dragon Ball Z is just holding off into this top side lane bush and trying to see if he can get something with an ult over a wall. Quaker Oats gets pulled in by Darius. He pops the ult a little bit too early. It's just not enough damage. Hubert is going to fall down, but the ace in the hole lands on top of Rise. Dragon Ball Z is able to ult over the wall and pick up a kill onto Jarvan. Tompu, though, getting focused down as well. The exhaust goes down onto him, and Suja is going to be able to hold this one out and stay alive. Meanwhile, Factset here is just pushing up this mid lane. Wow, holy cow. All right, so it's 6 kills to 11. Factset is starting to get a really, really big lead into this game. Now, this is a weighted best of 3. Remember that. So Factset absolutely has to win this game and the next one to go on for the After Hours Gaming League playoffs. But Curse really only has to win one, so if they might be giving this one up a little bit early, they still have another chance. So all they got to do is keep it up and keep going and trying, and that's all it's got to take. So there it is, and Suja's gonna recall now after that mid lane turret goes down. Extendo Hugs just warding up the map, and I hear a car alarm going on outside. Gotta love living in an apartment. Alright, so Curse turning around, just trying to group up and make something happen here. Wow, that's great. Alrighty, so just taking a look across the map, 11 kills to 6 for favor of Factset. 18 minutes into the game, 26,300 gold to 22,500. So let's see here. Factset now has a pretty solid lead, a little bit over, actually just about 4,000 gold lead. On to the game. Suja now might be turning around, taking down this bottom lane turret. It is a little bit low, and I don't think anyone from Curse is going to be able to stop it. So there it is. That bottom lane turret goes down. So it is 3 turrets for favor of Factset to 2 on to Curse. They're starting to get in a pretty good position here. But it's definitely not over yet. And it looks like Hubert is actually split pushing top pretty hard. Factset might take this as an advantage to engage onto this one. Tompu actually has to flash out of a route there from Rise. And it looks like all 5 members from Factset are pushing up this mid lane pretty hard. Meanwhile, Caitlyn is down at the bottom, and they're split pushing pretty hard. They've got Darius up at the top, and he's not really whittling away at the tower quickly enough. Mid lane turret is going to go down, and Curse is just going to give up their second inner turret for the mid lane. It looks like Hubert's still up at the top lane, working away at it, and Caitlyn just now getting to that mid lane to hold this one off. Extendo Hugs taking a couple of hits from the turret, but he gets hooked by Thresh. Completely focused out. Nuix is able to pick up the kill onto Extendo Hugs, and Hubert up in the top lane able to get that outer turret, and he's going straight for the inhibitor turret as well. Only Suja backing out. Only Suja backing out for Factset to hold this one off. And Fiddlesticks running for his life right now, but Hubert just doesn't quite have the damage to work away at these turrets fast enough to really split push and make use of that going on. But Zazimash here in that mid lane, kind of a little bit low on health. But Mega Milk's only at 40 mana, so he can't really take advantage of an extremely low Graves. All right, so yeah, this game's been going on pretty exciting. I gotta admit, and this is why I look forward to casting Factset versus Curse, or any game for pretty much either of these teams for the AHGL. It's pretty exciting. But it looks like 30,000 gold to 26,700, 11 kills to 7 in favor of Factset. Now remember, Factset has to win this game and the next one, so it's not quite over after this. But it's so back and forth. I mean, every time someone gets an advantage, the enemy team kind of figures out where they can pick their own, and it's just little advantages back and forth. These things can turn around. I don't know really how to feel about this quite yet. It's still a back and forth game, but it looks like, I mean, we got to work this out. This is the After Hours Gaming League. These are teams set up by the companies, much like your company might have like a softball team at work, or I don't know, a soccer club or whatever you want to call it, or a baseball team. These teams are actually worked out by the company. It's like having a League of Legends team for that one out. But Tompu gets caught out by the root from Rise. He just completely gets focused down, and Extendo Hugs gets caught out as well into these fights. Hubert gets completely focused down by the Rise and the Graves. Nuix gets caught out in his own Cataclysm. Dragon Ball Z getting really low, though. Cursed Liquid getting flashed after by the Rise, and the Mushroom is going to slow them down just long enough for Liquid to be able to get out away. from these two chasing him down, but that was a really, really good fight there by Factset, just trying to catch someone, anyone, out of place and use that to their advantage. Meanwhile, they're pushing up mid pretty hard. Megamilks is at half health, chugging away at a couple of potions. Should be able to get up to health here pretty quickly, especially with these minions coming up. A little bit of lifesteal. There it is. And it looks like ping's going down at the blue buff. They are trying to steal this one out, but I gotta imagine it's not there, and they know it's not there. Alright, taking a look here across the board. Let's take stock. Renekton now building a Mercury Treads and a Kindle Gem next up. Meanwhile, the mid lane, Dragon Ball Z has actually finished out his Zonia's Hourglass, and Rise working at, looks like his Rod of Ages just now finished, so he's looking at his next big damage item, big tank item coming out after that one. Graves has actually picked up a Last Whisper before he even got his level 2 boots. So he's really, really far ahead. Let's actually take a look at the gold count here on to Graves. 8,900 gold to only 6,800 from Graves to Caitlyn. This Graves Zazie match is actually extremely far ahead. And holy jeez, it's just, that's kind of where these whole fights lie. I mean, you can't really focus down the Graves because you've got Renekton, in your back line just absolutely tearing through it. You've got Lulu really protecting him and keeping him safe, and then on top of that, you've got Rise in the back line, making sure that no one gets close enough to Graves to really get through this back line. But it is kind of all onto your AD carry. He is kind of your main source of damage outside of, I guess you kind of have the jungle as well. I mean, you've got Fiddlesticks picked up his Zonia's Hourglass, and he's got level 2 Magic Pen boots as well. So he's a pretty solid source of damage. But if they can get through and just sort of shrug off the Fiddlesticks and maybe kind of catch them out in a fight, because he is extremely squishy, they might be able to get through the back line and turn this one around. But it is 14 kills to 8. 24 minutes into the game, 36,300 gold on Factset to 31,600 on the Curse. They might be in kind of a bad position. I don't really know, but yeah. So they are just kind of trading back and forth, looking for any big moment they can find. No one's really giving it up quite yet, and it looks like Fiddlesticks is heading up towards the top lane to clear that one out, sort of relieve the pressure onto that. But thanks to Hubert actually split pushing top lane a little bit earlier ago, they're actually even in turrets now, and even in that sort of global gold that they had worked out. The only really big difference, though, again, is not only the kill count, but it's the creep score. You've got Graves 30 CS ahead, you've got Rise 20 CS ahead, and but actually you've got Darius who's actually 20 CS ahead as well. So really the biggest difference here being the kill count and being the creep score on the right people. Let's put it that way. Having all of your money on your AD carry and your AP carry really allows for them to kind of control the flow of these team fights. Your tanks really don't need the brunt of your money. Your tanks really don't need the massive amount of damage and the massive amount of tankiness to really get into it. All they got to do is get close enough to sort of just control the flow of the fight. Meanwhile, you've got your AP carry and you've got your AD carry just tearing through your entire team. It's just Curse is just in a hard place. Let's put it that way. They absolutely can come back, and if they catch someone off guard, which is very possible, especially with someone like with Jarvan or with Darius or with Thresh with a hook. But Liquid actually gets completely focused down. Zazimash is able to pick up the kill there. Quaker Oats getting stuck inside the Cataclysm. He's able to flash over the wall, and Extendo Hugs getting pretty low as well. But it looks like Factset's going to come out ahead on that fight pretty well. That was a 4v4 fight there in mid lane, and Liquid just got completely focused out. But this is kind of what Curse needs to be doing. This is exactly where they need to be, or at least Factset. Like, Curse needs to be able to catch somebody off guard, because half of Factset is extremely squishy. Graves is very, very squishy. He has no he has no health item. He has no defensive item yet as an AD carry. You've got Rise here. he's starting to get pretty tanky. He's got the Glacial Shroud and he has the Warden's Mail. He was able to focus, or he was able to take the focus from 2 of the members, but it wasn't the big damage that was focused on him. But meanwhile, you know, Lulu doesn't really have any really big tank item yet. She's got, you know, a Cage's Lucky Pick and a Philosopher's Stone. Nothing really big to sort of mitigate any sort of damage, but, you know, Fiddlesticks, extremely squishy. The only really big item that he has for defense is Azonia's Hourglass, and all he has to do is pop it at the right time, and he might be able to turn this one around. But Zazimash here, getting hit by the Hubert pull. He gets completely focused down with the ultimate, and the bleed is able to shut him down. Hubert's able to pick up a kill onto Graves, and he might be able to get out alive out of that one because no really big damage outside of that is happening just yet. Meanwhile, Curse here getting a sneaky Baron. After they picked off Zazimash, they don't really have to worry about the rest of the team just yet. And Curse is able to pick up a Baron, and this is exactly the kind of thing that they need to get themselves back into the game. This is what I was saying earlier. All they got to do is pick someone off and get some advantage at all, really any advantage that they need, especially something as big as Baron, making all of your members much, much stronger. So this might be the turnaround for Curse that we've been waiting to see. 15 kills to 9 in favor of Factset, 40,600 gold, 28 minutes in the game to 38,000 flat for Curse. But holy cow, these games, this game is just such back and forth. It's crazy. So let's take a look at what's going on from both of the teams. So looking at Jarvan, he's actually working towards a Warmog's armor after picking up his Locket of the Iron Solari. Meanwhile, let's see, Darius picked up his Warmogs as well. He's actually got a Hex Drinker too, something we've kind of seen fall by the wayside, but it's an extremely useful item, especially in this situation where you've got a Rise and a Fiddlesticks on the enemy team. Suja here getting spotted out by the Jarvan flag. Was waiting for some form of ambush, but it's just holy cow. All right, so yeah, I mean, he's got a Hex Drinker, which is extremely useful to work out against Fiddlesticks and Rise, because you both got them focused down onto your Darius. You know, he's gonna blow up pretty fast. But you know, let's take a look though. Darius, though, once again pushing this bottom lane up. He's really going for the split push, and Factset is full on responding to this one. They've got 3 members going straight for this bottom lane, and this might be the kind of bait that they want, because Rise and Graves are now mid lane, and it looks like Hubert here taking quite a bit of damage, getting completely focused down. Dragon Ball Z turns around, pops the Zonias at just the right time, so the bleed and the ultimate doesn't quite kill him, but the pull comes in. Hubert's able to pick up a kill onto Dragon Ball Z, and he's able to just tank straight forward through these 2 damage. A double kill comes out from Hubert, and Suja might turn this around and focus this one down. Meanwhile, 4 members from Curse is pushing down this middle lane, and that, oh my gosh. So Factset actually took the bait there by going down to stop the split push from Darius, and that's exactly what Curse wanted. They wanted to send, you know, 3 or 4 people bottom lane to stop the Darius, and they just turned around and focused down the mid lane. It was like, you know what, you don't have anyone to sort of hold us off? Yeah, we're just gonna take it. That's all right. We can lose a Darius if it means your middle lane turret and possibly, you know, 2 of your members down. Holy jeez. Oh man, these are the exact kind of fights that Curse needs to get back into the game. But this gold lead now is starting to get much tighter. 43,900 gold, and Suja's actually just about to get picked off here. Luis is actually able to hop over the wall. Suja's getting really low. He pops the Locket of the Iron Solari just so the poison doesn't work his way out, and he might be able to get out alive onto this one. Liquid here stops for a second to pop down he actually flashes forward and completely misses the pull, and he just gets executed by a turret. He knew he wasn't going to make it out alive onto this one, so he just says, you know what, I'm not going to give up the kill, you guys. Wow. Oh man, these teams are fighting back and forth. All right, but I mean, the gold lead now is starting to dwindle. It's starting to look much less intimidating. You've got 44,600 on Factset to 44,200 on Curse. It's a 500 gold difference, and at this point in the game, 500 gold is not that much. It's the difference between a Doran's blade or a Doran's shield. But Extendo Hugs getting pulled in by Hubert, taking a lot of damage. He's gonna have to pop her ultimate, that Wild Growth, to stay alive. Hubert gets rooted down, but he's got a lot of tankiness with that health and the MR. But Graves here completely going forward, pops the ult onto it, and Curse Hubert goes down to Factset. Meanwhile, they're just going to push up mid lane pretty hard. Jarvan's up at the top lane recalling now, and it looks like Suja is heading straight forward towards this inhibitor. They might be going for kind of a big play, though. Extendo Hug's getting pretty low onto these fights. He's at about 1,000 health. And he does have his Shurelya's, but it's on about a halftime cooldown. Meanwhile, Zazimash in that front line, sort of working away at it. Pull comes in out from Thresh, lands onto Rise, and Quaker Oats just gets completely focused now. Meanwhile, Tompu turns around and tries to focus down the Graves. It's just not quite enough when you've got a Fiddlesticks and a Renekton in your back line working this out. A double kill comes out now from Zazimash, and this middle lane inhibitor turret might be under some trouble. Mega Milks is actually Liquid and Mega Milks are the only ones alive that might be able to hold this one off. Zazimash is still alive though. Liquid goes forward, tries to land a hit onto Dragon Ball Z. It's just not quite enough. He turns around, pops the fear, and Suja tries to get hit by the ace in the hole, and Fiddlesticks actually takes it and ends up going down for it. Liquid though hits the mushroom onto Renekton, able to pick him up. And Extendo Hug is actually having to pop his Shurelya's to get away from this Teemo. He's actually running so fast. Liquid is able to pick up another kill on top of Factset. Wow! Liquid turning this one around so quickly. Quaker Oats and Zazimash now have had it flipped and turned around. They're the only two ones alive on the Factset that might be able to hold this one off. And meanwhile, Graves here is stuck under a little bit, just not enough mana to hold this, and they're just going to end up losing this middle lane inhibitor to that fight. It just wasn't quite enough. It looked like Dragon Ball Z thought he could tank out the ace in the hole from Caitlyn, and it just... Fiddlesticks obviously has no health whatsoever. He's actually at 1,400 health himself. Taking a look though, I mean, Thresh has more health than him. Lulu has more health than him. He is a full-on glass cannon, and it's just, I don't think he quite realized how low his health is compared to pretty much everyone else in this game. I mean, take a look, Caitlyn even has more health on top of that, and she's not exactly the tankiest person around. Wow, these plays. I don't quite know how to make sense of all this. But Baron timer should be coming up here really quickly after that sneaky Baron attempt by Curse from a little while ago. That buff has worn off, and Darius comes back with a Maw of Malmortius, and he's going to start to be able to work through, and we saw him bottom lane be able to tank through 3 members himself. That Maw is going to start to allow him to actually maybe take on 4 with a little bit of help from his team, or even all 5, and that's kind of where he needs to be. He needs to be in that front line, pulling people out. Now, Curse is sitting on top of a ward, and Thresh here has an Oracle, so they might be able to clear this one out, but they're not quite aware that Factset can fully see this one. There is mushrooms all over the place. Extendo Hugs gets hit by one of them. Tries to pop the shield down to mitigate some of that damage, and it looks like Factset here is just all ready to stop the Baron if they need to, but Curse is clearing this one out. Suzu gets hit by another mushroom, and Hubert's in that front line, trying to get in range to grab somebody out of place. And this is what I was talking about earlier, is that Curse needs to just pick somebody out. They've got a grab from Darius, they've got one from Thresh, and then they've got, the knock-up and the Cataclysm from Jarvan. Extendo Hug's actually getting really low here from the poke from Curse, and they're just focusing down this Baron. Suja comes in onto the backside, goes straight on top of Caitlyn. Dragon Ball Z is able to actually ult over the wall. They're going to pick up 2 members, 3 members of Curse now down. Liquid getting focused out as well. Mega Milks pops the cleanse, but it's just not quite quick enough. And Dragon Ball Z actually turns around, lands on top of a mushroom, and Liquid is able to pick up a kill there. But an ace comes out from Factset. 36 minutes into the game, it is 24 kills to 17. Oh, what? I don't even know what to think of these games, but they couldn't actually go straight for an inhibitor or anything, because they have to turn around and hold off this Nexus turret and make sure it stays alive. Now, I guess the good thing here for Curse is that Factset wasn't quite able to turn around and take Baron off of that one. At least, just taking a look from from Curse's standpoint, at least Factset did not pick up the Baron after that fight, because if they had, it would have been a completely different story. But since they turned around and just picked up an ace on the team, and now they had to defend their base, because if they hadn't, they would have lost these Nexus turrets. That actually almost worked out kind of okay for Curse. It almost worked out kind of ish okay. I don't know. It's not in a situation where you want to be, but I will take that. let's put it that way. I didn't necessarily want to die that team fight, but I'll take it. It's just okay. All right, so Zazzy match here, kind of clearing out the race. And this is the point where the AD carry from Graves is starting to lose his really big edge. He now has a Blade of the Ruined King, and he's working towards, looks like a Warmogs after this one, or at least a Frozen Mallet from that. But he's starting to lose his really, really big edge. He has 12 kills, 1 death, and 6 assists, as well as 300 CS. And looks like Curse here got spotted out into that bush. But Caitlyn now picked up a Phantom Dancer, a Last Whisper, and she's working towards her own Frozen Mallet, it looks like. So she's starting to really, really kind of get herself into the game. She's actually going to be a threat here pretty quickly. And I don't know that Factset really likes the kind of position they've been put in. Zazimash and Suja setting off a couple of mushrooms, or Easter eggs at that, from the little Easter Bunny Teemo. Kind of setting this off. They're doing a Baron dance once again. Liquid's able to land off an auto attack onto Suja, but he's just tanky enough to kind of not worry about it. Now, taking a look, Renekton has finished off his Warmogs, and he did finish off a Locket as well as the Brutalizer. So he's actually starting to be pretty much a threat to your back line onto Curse. It's just whether or not he can get there safely while the rest of his team kind of works away at the blue side's team. But it looks like Curse isn't going to go for a Baron here. They're just going to straight up push now that the inhibitor has respawned. And I don't know how Curse is going to be able to handle this one. They got to be really careful about how they engage this fight. If they can pick someone up, and now that they don't really have a brush control or a Fog of War control with Fiddlesticks, they're kind of on the back foot. Inhibitor's starting to take quite a bit of damage there from Caitlyn, but they're staying pretty safe. Suja almost gets pulled by the Darius, but it's just out of range. Fiddlesticks tried to come in around the wall from the top side, and it just wasn't enough. Stendo Hugs trying to get rid of the traps here inside of this base. Suja is actually getting pretty low as well. And they're just trying to clear this one out, but they don't really have a big wave clearer on the side of Factset just yet. I mean, Graves still has a bit with his buckshot, but he's got to be really careful about where he spends his mana, as he kind of needs it for these fights. Pings are going down onto the mid lane. They're keeping up the pressure onto it. Top lane turret is going to start to take a bit of damage from these minions, and it looks like Curse is going to wait for this top lane to push pretty hard, as Suja is in the bottom lane clearing this one out, and they just got to wait for someone to sort of turn this around. Extendo Hugs here gets pulled in by the Darius, but it's just not quite enough. Suja here gets hit by the Cataclysm. Mega Milks stays completely safe. Liquid's able to pick up a kill onto the Renekton in the backside, but Darius just gets completely focused down by Zazimash. Zazimash here gets turned around onto by Caitlyn, and that's 2 kills now for Mega Milks. Extendo Hugs is the only one alive on Factset. Liquid's gonna flash forward for the kill, and Lulu's gonna flash out and just barely stay alive. But Curse now has taken the middle lane inhibitor, has actually taken the top lane inhibitor turret. That's the second inhibitor down for Curse, and this might be game. It's just, remember, Curse only has to win 1 game to go on to the playoffs. Nexus turret 1 has gone down, and everyone from Factset is up in another 30 seconds. It's just, I don't know that they're going to have enough time Nuise is really low. Extendo Hug's the only one alive. She's just trying to hold this one off. She gets completely focused down, and an ace comes out from Curse. They are going to go on with a win against Factset for the playoffs. That's right. This was a weighted best of 3. Curse has now actually gone 2-0 against Factset, and they will be going on for the After Hours Gaming League to the playoffs. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again. My name is InsigmaTheory. You can catch me here on my stream at twitch.tv/InsigmaTheory, or you can head on over to check out the other VODs from AHGL at youtube.com/AfterHoursGamingTV. If you want to find out where I will be, you can always hit up the social media, Facebook or Twitter, at InsigmaTheory or /InsigmaTheory, whichever works for you, and you can find out where that goes. Do not forget the competition for the So You Think You Can Cast is coming up here pretty quickly. The voting begins next week, if I'm not mistaken, or the 17th. That might be actually a week and a day. Looks like, no, it's actually next week comes up. So make sure you guys get in your votes for the After Hours Gaming League on who you think should go on as the casters. So make sure to check that out.